Record. Hello, everyone. This is Jen Piceno, and today I brought with me a beautiful author from sacred medicine, mystical practices to ecstatic living. Meet Laura Mazzotta. She is the author of chapter number 9, Chanting in the Akashic Records. I would love for you just to dive in right from the get-go and let us know what you want to share with all of our listeners today, and let us just know a little bit more about you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I love being here in this space with you and just sharing energy together. It makes me so happy. It's so funny because when you first approached me, well, actually, I was referred to you by someone to write this book, to write this chapter. And I had said, I'm not writing any more chapters because I started writing my book. So I'm not going to write any more chapters. And then you and I talked and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to write this chapter. I was like, it is required. Like the yummy vibe that exists around sacred medicine. I mean, if that isn't part of my soul to just, that's what I love so much about the Akashic records. It's like every single time we enter that space, and I'll explain what those are in a minute for people who don't understand. But every single time I enter that space, I'm creating my own sacred medicine every single time. So I get to bring forward unique medicinal protocols for myself, for my clients, and every single person's is different because we're all snowflakes. And so,
absolutely.
And so it's so cool to not only see like the overlay between the energy in the records and somebody else's energy and how that magic happens uniquely in each overlay. But we learn so much about how we can use the records and how we can use the universal energy even more to our advantage when we go in with the intention of extracting our own sacred medicine.
So let me stop you for 1 second. Can you explain to the listeners who've never heard of what an Akashic record is? Can we back up for 1 second and just explain what it is so we can open their perception to taking in all the other delicious information that you're about to share?
Absolutely. Well, I was going to do that next, but see, it's hard for me to stop talking once I start.
I love it. You're passionate, and it's why you're in this book. This is the energy, just for you that are listening. I did not take one writer in this book that was not a hell yes. Like there was an energy, a vibration, a frequency, and an excitement behind each person in this book. And as you can see, she has all of that.
Yeah, I do not lack in that area at all, especially when it comes to this topic. So the Akashic records, what are they? I like to really view them as a spiritual library in the clouds. I'm a very visual learner, and so I like to bring those visuals forward and those tangibles that we can understand as humans, right? So that's one of them. It's envisioning this library that exists up in the clouds, and the people who work there, the librarians, are your angels and guides and loved ones and ascended masters like Jesus Christ, and they're really holding all of these books safely. And all of these books, there's an infinite number, because there's one that exists for each soul that's ever sparked into existence. So when we open your record, it's like one of these angels is taking the book of you off the shelf and opening it up. And it has all the info about your soul from the time it first sparked through past lives, current life, future lives. And then this is the second tangible, which is, I call it Google for the soul. Because at this point, now that your book is open, you can ask any question you want, like anything you would type into Google, like, why am I having chest pain? Or, why is my relationship pissing me off, or whatever it is that's coming up, right? Like whatever you're looking for feedback on. What's so freaking awesome is that you're going to get feedback that's unique to your soul path, like I was talking about earlier, that it's an answer nobody else is going to get. And also you're in this vibrational loving space that everything coming toward you is so loving and is never going to be something you're not ready to integrate at the time. So you don't have to worry about like getting overwhelmed or crazed or I don't know what to do.
Absolutely. And I love, love, love all of that. That's the realm that I like to play in. So take us into a piece of the medicine that you'd like to share. I know The subtitle was Ascending Potent Healing at a Cellular Level. And you had me with that line, because I believe everything that we do when we're doing our healing work, in order to integrate it, to truly own the teachings, to own the wisdom of it, it has to go into our cellular level. We have to believe it that deeply that we own it within our physical being. So can you just share a little bit, whether you want to take us into a little snippet of what you do for a spiritual practice, or anything that comes through to you? I just want to know.
Yeah, well, and so that's what's funny, because I was guided to this space because of physical healing, and I obviously got so much more than that, so much more than that. But what I've learned, because I've been a therapist for 20 years, but the level of depth that this work goes to is that cellular level. It is, when we internalize it at the level you were just talking about, it's long lasting.
Yes.
Right? Like, it's done. And so it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, this works and it sticks. Like,
yes. Yes. And I just want everybody to take that in, because so often I see people going to these lovely retreats, which I enjoy as well. They have these incredible spiritual ahas. They come back home and they get back in the hustle bustle of life, and everything's like gone, right? Yeah. They haven't taken the time to process, integrate, and absorb. So what would you share to help people do that a little bit more? I know I have my set practices, but I'd love for you to really expand upon something that you found, and even in your own healing, that has helped integrate the work, truly receive the work. Because as an author, you are giving this information to somebody. How can they integrate it more deeply?
So for me, when it comes to integration, it's all about, in my opinion, it's all about pace. Because it's funny, like, time has always been something that's very present in my field. Like, I've always been, when I was younger, I was very neurotic about time. I'm like, we have to leave in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, like, I was like so neurotic about it. And now I'm like, oh, it's so fascinating that I've had this relationship with time, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's morphed over time, and it's, I would argue, one of our most valuable resources, right? And it's one that is infinitely available to us, and time doesn't even exist in other dimensions. This is a human construct. And so for me, it's, when you're looking at healing, when you're looking at integration, it is opening up space within your field to be able to allow the energy to settle and rearrange. And it's almost like, it's so funny, because when I was younger, every time I would buy a new outfit, my mom would say, are you going to introduce your new clothes to your old clothes? And that's kind of how I feel. It's like, take your new energy, introduce it to your old energy, allow them to meet each other, create a relationship, find a nice settling point, right? And so what do you need for that? You need space and you need time, right? And so I think that they go together. I think space is actually time. So if you open up space for that, it's, okay, I've left my retreat. I'm not just going to come home from my retreat and go right back into the grind. It's funny, because I just did a TikTok video on this last week, because I would come back from vacation, and I came back from vacation, and the first day back, I had nothing on my calendar. And the next day I just had like 2 things, because I integrate the shift in energy coming back. We are not meant to just like dive right back into go, 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 because yes, you've internalized some of that information, but did you root it deeply enough? And so at that point, what I would do is give yourself an opportunity that even just the next morning, when you wake up, you allow your energy to lead. Where is my energy going to guide me today? Is it going to guide me to eating breakfast right away? Is it going to guide me to going outside and putting my feet in the grass? And allowing your energy to guide you, so that you're honoring the fact that a different pattern might show up, right? And so you're just raising your awareness. Now that I'm back in my world with the distractions and the humans and everything around me, and I'm not just in my Zen mode, I have the opportunity to, if I'm in a conversation with someone, say, this is awesome. Thank you so much for this. I need to take a pause. I just need to take a few minutes just within yourself to breathe, to just, again, allow the energy to settle. Basically, when you feel things have settled, and that could mean a few breaths. For me, it's chanting.
For you,
Which
it's
is
chanting. Yeah, I love that you know exactly what your medicine is, and you're utilizing it in your own, you're living the path, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love this talk and this topic on time, because I find so many people have such an unhealthy relationship to time and self-talk and mindset and everything about it. How often you hear people say in average conversation, I don't have time. I'm out of time. There's not enough time. And I'm calling bullshit on that. I believe that we collapse time. And that might be because of the way I think multidimensional. And just like you're talking about, it's multidimensional. Time does not exist in those constraints. But we carve out time, like on the watch, for what is important to us. And I think there's nothing more important to us than integrating the wisdom from the teachings that we receive. It's what helps us expand into fullness, right?
And this is exactly one of the main reasons that I shifted from traditional therapy to the spiritual work. It's because I was like, I can't do that because I have an appointment with such and such client. And if I didn't meet with that client, would that mess with their stability? Right? Because there was this consistency required on a weekly or bi-weekly basis that really you're providing that safe space, right, for people. And I love that. I love doing that. I love the work itself.
Yeah.
But me being able to follow my free flowing energy and saying, you know what, this is coming up in my field today. And so I am clearing my day, or I am clearing my morning, because it is vital for me to be able to sink into my deepest level of yumminess. Because then when I show up later, we're going to slay this with a level of efficiency that will blow your mind.
Absolutely. So if you guys listen to her and the conviction in her voice and how she is owning her power right now, she is in divine flow. And this is what I'm talking about with ecstatic living. It is knowing and listening and trusting your intuition, trusting what your body is telling you instead of ignoring it until it stops on you.
And you know what that was about for me? That was about prioritizing success.
Yes. Or even the meaning, redefining it was big for me. Redefining what it is.
I had to redefine it because the success was about how many clients do I have? How many appointments are on my calendar this week? How much money am I making? How many degrees can I receive? You know, like I was so tied into that societal definition of success. And my title of therapist, my role of therapist was incredibly intertwined with my identity.
Oh, yes.
And I was like, dude, no, I am a soul, a vibrant, sovereign soul that exists independently of this title and this role. And when I own that and I flow with that, man, am I going to get results for my clients and for myself that goes beyond what we could consciously understand.
I just had this conversation yesterday with another podcast host. And he asked me about my morning routine, and his eyes widened when I said, I don't take my first clients till 11 a.m.
Yep.
And the reason I don't is for exactly what you're talking about. I get up, I have my downloads, I have my intention stating, I might go on a walk. I do what I got to do. It doesn't mean that I'm not working on my business. I'm just working on it in a very intentional, very sacred way. And it doesn't start with my first client with me bolting in to do. I allow. And when I do that, I know I serve more deeply, which is exactly what you're saying. What I'm hearing you say is you show up differently for yourself, but you're also showing up for your clients in a different way. We serve more, how would you say, soul-led? Yes?
Yes. And because what you've done is you've opened up that space. You've intentionally created the space in the morning for spirit to flow in, for your divine messages to flow in, and to be honestly tethered, having your heart tethered to spirit from the beginning of the day, so that tether supports, balances, holds you as you navigate the human throughout the course of your day.
And I love that you and I are in sync with this for sure. I believe this is part of wealth consciousness, right? Because for me, time is just as valuable as money, right? The currency of time. But by me taking that time for myself, me being willing to receive it, I'm receiving that currency. I have collapsed the modern definition of time and success. And by doing that, I've allowed more actual currency dollars to come to me with ease and grace without me pushing so hard and hustle, hustle, hustle. The way that you explained your practice was exactly how I was running mine when I was doing celebrity massages. And even when I was a dance instructor, it was every hour somebody else was walking right through the door. And I squeezed as many in as I could because hours equaled dollars.
Yes, that's exactly what I did.
Hours don't equal dollars for me anymore. Not even a little bit. I do not trade time for money.
Nope, not even close.
That is a poor man's game or a poor woman's game.
Yep. No, I completely agree with you. And I think it's so beautiful that my life was incredibly happy and incredibly wonderful. And then it became phenomenal and ecstatic, to use your word, because I didn't know it existed. I didn't know that when I went beyond my type A perfectionistic, I got to do these things and I have to complete these tasks in order to be successful. And don't get me wrong, I was very successful. Mm-hmm. And I know you were too, and it seemed logically crazy to me to leave my traditional therapy practice. Waiting list for 5 years, super lucrative, incredible name in the community, referrals coming in constantly. Why would I leave? Right? And it's because of the more I lean back and the more I just allow, it's funny because I had so much resistance at the beginning. I think we all do, right?
Oh, yeah. It's hard to walk away from what is good. What is good. It's hard for people to walk away even from what's bad, right? But walking away from the comfort zone of the knowing, this is what I have, this is what it equals, this is what I can count on, to going more into the, I'm going to go soul led, and I don't know exactly what it looks like.
Well, and that's what's is so funny is like, so I was always somebody who took baby steps. So I'd be like, okay, I want to try this or try that. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to take the first step, right? And it's very clear the closer and closer that I became to my soul and understood my higher self and my heart space, that the universe strongly desires for me to quantum leap, like to just take a giant leap of faith. My human still to this day is like, I really don't want that. Like that is highly.
So did you used to negotiate with your spirit guides also?
Well, and it's funny because I used to enter the records and feel really anxious because I'd be like, dude, they're going to tell me to do something that I am so not
really big.
You know what I mean?
And it usually is, but I do think that leap of faith is one of the keys to success.
100%.
You have to go with your intuition. You have to go with your gut. And it is like jumping out of a plane.
Oh, big time. Like it's so funny that you mentioned a retreat because I have my first retreat that's coming up this October. And I'm so excited about it. Yeah. And so it was so funny because it was paying that large bill for the location for this enormous mansion in the mountains. And I'm like, I didn't even flinch. I was like, of course this needs to happen. Like
I get it. When you know, your soul knows what your soul knows. That's what it was for me with Laura's book. Logically, worst timing ever. Worst timing ever. Logically, not a good financial decision.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go, like how it looked at that moment, I was like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
But my body, it was like, hell yes. And I just knew what I knew. And I just immediately sent it over. When you know, you know.
Yeah.
And you stepping into that, like the expansion after you do it, isn't that just exhilarating?
It's exhilarating. And the thing is that it opens up the energy for not just you, right? Like for everyone around you, like it's truly an act of service. It
is an act of service. And I think that when you trust that, the things that unfold they always exceed any expectations my humanness could ever come up with.
Always. And I'm always mind blown. And then I say to myself, am I not used to these mind-blowing moments anymore? Like, why does this keep surprising me? Like,
I say the same thing. Yeah. It's like, but it is. And I think that's why when people ask me what my goal is, I don't like setting a goal because that's for my human self. And that cuts me off to the limitless potential. Right.
I totally said that to, I think it was one of my coaches like a couple of weeks ago or something. And I said, you know, I haven't for a long time set any financial goals for my business. I don't. And I know a lot of people think that that is wrong and that's going to steer you off track. For me, it opens up so much more abundance. Like, the less that I limit myself with any kind of agenda or human construct or even words to define it, you know, the more that I allow that magic to flow in, and I open up the opportunity for surprise and miracles.
Yes. 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 Magic money is beautiful.
Oh, so exciting. But I'm so glad you're bringing this up too, because I think one of the things that comes up naturally for people is logic and rationality, you know, because then there's the people in your life who say, well, that doesn't make sense. You need to make sure that you have this many people signed up for your retreat before you pay the bill or before you make a sign contract, you know, and you can easily in a hot second get lost in that. Easily. You're human and ego.
That you can. And that's one of the things that I've done that's been a key to me growing is I hold it to myself until I'm ready to share, because it's one seed, one negative seed can take you in a spiral downward unless you are very, very anchored into your purpose and really, really driven. Now they can say it and I'll just be like, your opinion is interesting, but it's not going to affect what I do. Right.
Thank you for your feedback. And I think it's most important to implement this in our closest relationships. You know, like even when I made that first giant investment in my mastermind, you know, and it used to be that my husband and I would sit down and make these financial decisions together all the time. And I just went to him and I'm like, this is something that I'm doing. Like, I just knew so confidently there was absolutely no way that my soul was not doing this, because it was 110% in.
Oh yeah. You feel the pull when you know, you just know. And those are the people I know you're calling into your world and I'm calling into mine. Is I want to work with other women, other humans that have that knowing, just like it's a yes. It's not only just a yes, it's a hell yes. And they're not going to get caught up in the mind trap or the monkey mind.
Right. Well, and you know what though? It's also realizing that doesn't mean you don't have fear, and it doesn't mean you don't have some concerns, right? You can still be a hell yes and still be scared.
And you should be, otherwise it's not a big enough vision. And I've learned that too. Like even back when I was dancing, like if I wasn't nervous, that was the worst show. If I was not nervous before I went on the stage, I did not give my best. And I feel that with this, I need to feel a little bit uncomfortable, but in an excited way. Like I know it's a yes, but I kind of want to have that little shake to me. Like that's what makes me stretch and evolve and expand. And I feel like I show up differently for the people I serve.
100%. I love that so much.
Yeah. So what words of wisdom do you want to leave our listeners with today? Any Akashic goodies that want to come through?
Yeah, I'm going to just tune in. They're showing me this image of a fire, which is my favorite element. So not surprising they bring that forward for Laura Mazzotta, but this fire that exists not just like within you, like when we talk about Kundalini energy, we talk about it existing and starting at the base of your spine. Not just that, but like heart on fire, you know, like closing your eyes, putting your hand on your heart, taking a really deep breath in and really tuning into what lights my heart on fire, and then making a commitment within the next 24 hours to take at least one step toward it.
Yes. I love it. It was the first name of my retreat, Heart Fire Retreat.
Oh my gosh. Look at that. That's crazy.
Can't make this stuff up. Oh my goodness. Such an honor to be with you, to have you in my book, to have you in my tribe. And we're going to share all of her contact information. If you want to work with her, follow her, get to know her, be in her world. I'll make sure I put all of her details in the video description. Thank you so much. I love you dearly, and I appreciate all that you're sharing with your beautiful gifts and your sacred medicine for me and everybody else.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful day, everyone.